Senator Bennet of Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to pick up right where you left off and where Senator Johanns left off, because I think this is, by the way, a fascinating conversation. Appreciate all of your being here today. I think this is fraught with incredible amounts of potential unintended consequences, and we need to be enormously careful about keeping our mind on or our focus on what is the problem that we're trying to solve here, because I'm enormously skeptical of our ability to predict, or of the regulatory agency's ability to predict these economic cycles, and then to be able to respond in a way that doesn't actually compound the problem that we're facing. I think we've just seen 20 years of leverage piling up on our system, and a lack of attention to that has led to the destruction of, our economy and the dreams of a lot of people who live in my state and other states. I fully agree that we need to that having a resolution authority in place would have made an enormous difference in this case and kept us out of the Alice in Wonderland world that we're in now, where we're having conversations here about how people get paid in private institutions, where the taxpayers actually had to come to the rescue of firms that we should never have had to rescue. I think both the Fed chairman and the Treasury Secretary have been doing good work trying to get us out of here, and I think they're right to say that we were left with an assortment of terrible choices, and we took the least bad. And I think our objective here needs to be to make sure we never find ourselves in that place again. And I guess the question that I have for you, Chairman Bear, is when you talk about a council, and again, I don't have anything against a council or any of this, and it might help. But when you talk about a council that anticipates risk, I think I get that. A little skeptical, but I get it. You also talked about a council that mitigates risk. What could you tell us more about what that means? Put some flesh on those bones for us.
Mitigate or reduce risk. I mean, I think you can't get risk completely out of the system. We're a capitalist system, so there's got to be some risk in return. I mean, but I think excessive risk perhaps should be a better example. I think, in terms of the powers of the Systemic Risk Council, prudential requirements I would put at the top of my list, and their capital and margining and other constraints on leverage. There was too much leverage that had been built up on the system. And I would say that we would believe this council should have the authority to set minimum standards. So if the council decides that the FDIC isn't setting up high enough capital standards for its banks, or if the Fed is not setting high enough standards for its bank holding companies, or having high enough standard for the quality of capital, that the council could step in and raise those standards. So I think there's some checks and balances as well that you get that you may not with vesting all this power in one single entity.
So that's an interesting idea. And would the effect of that be to remove some of the risk of regulatory capture of the other agencies?
I think that's exactly right.
Just a question for the panel generally. So one thing we've learned in this economic crisis is that the United States economy is in no way isolated from the rest of the world. As we think about this set of new laws and regulations, how should we think about how we connect to the rest of the world, or the regulators connect to regulators across the globe?
Well, I think we should lead the world. I don't think we should wait for the world, or it could be a very long time based on my limited experience with some of these international groups. And I think especially in resolution authority, they are looking to the United States to define the model. And so I think you should seize the moment and forge ahead and lead, not follow. Because I do think there are still a lot of folks looking to us for leadership, and I think we can help define what the international standards ultimately will be.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'll end just by saying that I hope that whatever it is we arrive at here and whatever we do with the administration leads toward a bias that when firms need to fail, they fail, and we can make sure we do that in an orderly way, and that we're not ever again in the circumstance we're in today, which is to prop up institutions simply because we had no other good choice. These were problems that were avoidable, and it's just a shame that the taxpayers have found themselves where we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator. I couldn't agree more, and the point's been made by several, and that the options being, one, to pour billions in or to collapse them. There has to be alternatives within those two bookends.